The average American spends over $12,000 a year on health care, struggles with obesity rates approaching 40%, and reports feeling exhausted more days than not. Meanwhile, the average Japanese person spends a fraction of that, lives nearly 7 years longer, and maintains one of the lowest obesity rates in the developed world, under 5%. This is not genetics, and it is not some secret elixir found only on a remote island. It is a collection of daily habits, so simple you have probably walked past them your entire life without noticing. Today I am going to walk you through 8 of these habits, counting down from the ones that will subtly shift your mindset to the one habit, so powerful it rewires your entire relationship with food and your body. Some of these are so simple they will shock you. Others are so genius you will wonder why no one ever told you. I have personally tested every single one, and the results genuinely changed my life. Let us start with number 8. Number 8. They treat bathing like a sacred medical treatment, not a quick shower. In the West, we shower to get clean, and we do it fast. The average American shower lasts about 8 minutes, and it is a utilitarian sprint of soap, rinse, and out the door. The water is a tool, the shower is a stall, and the entire experience is something to get through as efficiently as possible so you can move on to the next task. In Japan, bathing is an entirely different ritual. The bathroom, or afuro, is treated almost like a home spa, and the bath itself is for soaking, not for washing. In fact, you are expected to wash and rinse your body completely outside the tub before you ever step foot in the water. There is a small stool, a handheld shower head, and you sit down and scrub every inch of your skin until you are completely clean. Only then, once there is not a trace of soap or dirt on your body, do you slide into the steaming water. The bath water is kept pristine, crystal clear, shared by the entire family, and the soak lasts anywhere from 15 to 40 minutes in water heated to around 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The bathroom itself is often a quiet, softly lit space, sometimes with a small window overlooking a tiny garden or a bamboo screen. It smells faintly of hinoki cypress wood or yuzu citrus. It is not a place you rush through. It is a place you sink into, literally and metaphorically. And here is the part that changed everything for me. This is not just relaxation. It is a profound medical intervention disguised as a daily pleasure. A large-scale study conducted over nearly 2 decades in Japan, following tens of thousands of participants, found that regular hot bath soaking was associated with a significant drop in the risk of major cardiovascular events, including stroke and heart attack. The heat dilates your blood vessels, improves circulation, reduces blood pressure, and mimics some of the benefits of light aerobic exercise. Your heart rate rises gently, your blood flow increases. Your muscles, which have been clenched against the stress of the day, finally receive the signal that it is safe to let go. The heat also triggers the release of heat shock proteins, which are involved in cellular repair and have been linked to longevity in multiple studies. There is even research suggesting that regular hot water immersion can improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation markers. This is not folklore. This is physiology. I remember the first time I tried this properly. I had just come back from a trip to Tokyo where I stayed with a family in a small apartment in Sujanami Ward. They had a tiny plastic tub with a lid to keep the water warm. And every night without fail, the grandmother would soak for 30 minutes. The bathroom was no bigger than a closet, but she had transformed it. A small waterproof radio played quiet and calm music. A single candle flickered on the counter. The water was so hot that, when I first dipped my hand in, I genuinely thought I would not be able to tolerate it. She just smiled and slid in like she was returning to the womb. She was 82 years old, moved like she was 50, had the clearest skin I had ever seen on someone her age, and had the lowest blood pressure readings I had ever witnessed. She told me, through her daughter translating, that she had not missed a single night of soaking in over 60 years. Not even when she had a fever, not even when she was exhausted. It was not a luxury for her. It was as essential as brushing her teeth. I came home to my apartment in the States, looked at my sad, cluttered bathtub that I had been using as a storage space for a mop bucket, and a stack of old magazines. And I cleared it out completely. I scrubbed it until it gleamed. I committed to a 20-minute soak 4 nights a week. The first night, I felt restless. I kept thinking about my phone, about emails I should be answering, about the time I was wasting just sitting there. By the third night, something shifted. I started to feel the heat penetrate deeper, past the skin, past the muscles, into something that felt almost like my bones were unclenching. By the end of the second week, my sleep tracker showed a 15% increase in deep sleep. My resting heart rate dropped by 4 beats per minute. My morning anxiety, that low hum of dread I had accepted as normal for years, was noticeably quieter. I stopped dreading the bath as a waste of time and started treating it as my most productive health habit of the day. It was the one time I could not multitask, could not scroll, could not work. And that enforced stillness was exactly what my nervous system had been starving for. Here is what you do. Tonight, do not just shower. Run the bath as hot as you can comfortably stand. Not lukewarm, not pleasantly warm, but genuinely hot. The kind of heat that makes you exhale slowly as you lower yourself in. Wash your body first at the side of the tub or in the shower. Rinse off completely, and then step into the water. Leave your phone in another room, not on the edge of the tub, not within arm's reach, in another room entirely. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly through your nose. Feel the heat sink into your shoulders, your lower back, your calves. Notice the places where you are holding tension, and consciously direct your breath into those spots. Do this for 20 minutes. If you feel lightheaded, sit up slowly and cool down, but aim for at least 15. You just gave your heart and brain a gift you cannot get from any supplement bottle, any meditation app, or any productivity hack. You gave your body permission to stop fighting for a little while, and that permission is medicine. Number 7. They never wear shoes inside the home, and it is not about cleanliness. It is about a psychological boundary that reprograms your brain. Almost every Japanese home, apartment, school, and even many traditional restaurants have a jenkin, a lowered entryway where shoes come off and are replaced with indoor slippers. The jenkin is a distinct architectural feature, a recessed floor area, often tiled or made of stone, that is physically lower than the rest of the house. It is not a doormat. It is a room, a transitional zone, a space that belongs neither to the outside nor to the inside. When you step into a jenkin, you are standing in a liminal space, and the act of removing your shoes is the ritual that allows you to cross the threshold. On the surface, yes, this keeps the floors immaculately clean. You are not tracking in pesticides, heavy metals, industrial chemicals, animal waste, and whatever else you stepped in on the sidewalk, the parking lot, the public restroom floor. Researchers at the University of Houston found that a shocking percentage of outdoor shoes carry Clostridium difficile, a bacteria that causes severe and sometimes life-threatening intestinal infections, along with E. coli, Staphylococcus aureus, and heavy metal residue like lead and cadmium. Every time you walk through your house with your outdoor shoes on, you are essentially painting your floors, the floors your children crawl on, the floors your food sometimes falls onto, with a thin layer of everything the world has to offer. But the deeper genius of the jenkin, the part that genuinely changed the way I experience my own home, is what it does to your mind. It is a physical, tangible, unmissable line between the chaotic, stressful, overstimulating outside world and the peaceful sanctuary of home. When you physically bend down, untie your shoes, place them neatly on the rack or in the cubby, and step up into the house, you are performing a ritual of transition. Your brain receives a clear, undeniable signal that you have arrived, that the performance of the outside self is over, that you are now in a space where you can exhale. The pressures of work, the frustration of traffic, the noise of the city, the difficult conversation with your boss, the anxiety about the news, they all stay in that lowered entryway with your shoes. You are not bringing them into the house. You are leaving them at the door, literally and symbolically. I never understood this until I moved into an apartment that had a tiny tiled entryway, maybe 3 feet by 3 feet, and I decided to enforce a strict no shoes policy for 6 months. I bought a simple wooden shoe rack, a small basket for slippers, and I told everyone who entered, including myself, that shoes came off the moment you stepped inside. The first week felt pretentious and annoying. I would forget, walk 3 steps into the living room, realize my mistake, and have to backtrack. Guests looked at me strangely. I felt like I was imposing an arbitrary rule that served no real purpose. By the 3rd week, something shifted. I noticed that walking through my front door started to feel like a genuine exhale, a physical release of tension I had not even realized I was carrying. The moment my shoes came off, my shoulders dropped. The cool wood floor under my socks felt grounding. I had created a physical act that told my nervous system to switch modes, to transition from the sympathetic fight or flight state of the outside world to the parasympathetic rest and digest state of home. This is not speculation or wishful thinking. Environmental psychology studies have repeatedly shown that transitional rituals, small behaviors that mark the shift from one context to another, significantly reduce anxiety, improve mental recovery after work, and create a clearer psychological separation between work identity and home identity. People who lack these rituals often experience what researchers call role blurring, where the stress of work bleeds into home life and the restful qualities of home never fully take hold. The Japanese did not need a study to tell them this. They just built it into the architecture of every single home, every school, every temple, every traditional restaurant. The Jenkin is not an afterthought. It is the first thing you encounter, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. Try this for 1 week. Designate your entryway as a shoe-free zone. Get a simple shoe rack or a mat. If you do not have a distinct entryway, create one with a small rug or a change in flooring texture. The moment you walk in, stop, remove your shoes, place them neatly to the side, and consciously tell yourself, I am home now. Everything else can wait. It sounds too small to matter, and that is exactly why it works. The most powerful psychological interventions are often the ones that bypass the thinking brain entirely and speak directly to the body. Your body knows that shoes mean movement, effort, the outside world. Removing them is a full body signal that you are safe now. Number 6. They practice in Emuri the art of strategic napping in public, and it is not laziness, it is a badge of honor. In the West, if you fall asleep at your desk, on a park bench, or on the subway, people assume you are either drunk, homeless, or completely irresponsible. There is a deep moral judgment attached to daytime sleep. We equate wakefulness with virtue and sleepiness with weakness. If you are tired, you should have slept more. If you cannot keep your eyes open, you must not care enough. In Japan, Inemuri, which literally translates to being present while sleeping, is not just tolerated, it is respected. You see it everywhere. Businessmen in dark suits dozing on crowded trains, their heads gently bobbing, their briefcases balanced on their laps. Students slumped over their desks during a break between classes, arms forming a pillow. Even professionals with their eyes closed during long meetings, technically present, technically available if called upon, but catching a few minutes of restorative rest. The cultural logic is this: if you are so committed to your work, your studies, and your obligations that you have pushed yourself to the point of physical exhaustion, then briefly closing your eyes in public is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of dedication, a visible testament to how hard you have been working. The body simply needs what it needs, and denying the body its basic biological requirements is not virtuous, it is foolish. This reframe is revolutionary. We have been taught to fight fatigue with caffeine, shame, and sheer willpower. And we are losing that battle catastrophically. The CDC reports that 1 in 3 American adults does not get enough sleep, and the resulting cognitive decline, mood disorders, and increased accident risk cost the economy billions every year. We are a nation of exhausted people pretending to be alert, medicating ourselves with stimulants, and then wondering why we are anxious, depressed, and unable to focus. The Japanese approach, rather than pretending everyone can magically get 8 uninterrupted hours every night, simply acknowledges reality and builds a solution into the day. A 15-minute nap, what neuroscientists call a power nap, has been shown in studies from NASA and multiple sleep research labs to improve alertness, reaction time, and creative problem solving without the grogginess of a longer sleep cycle. A nap of 10 to 20 minutes keeps you in the lighter stages of non-REM sleep, which means you wake up feeling refreshed and clear-headed rather than disoriented and sluggish. It is a targeted intervention, a surgical strike on fatigue, not an admission of defeat. I started experimenting with an Emuri during a period when I had a newborn at home and was averaging 4 hours of broken sleep a night. I was a wreck, barely functional, guzzling coffee until my stomach burned and my hands shook. I would sit at my desk in the afternoon and feel my brain shutting down, my eyes refusing to focus, my thoughts sliding off the task in front of me like water off glass. Then I remembered the salarymen on the Yamanote line, heads bobbing, completely unashamed, catching 10 minutes of sleep between Shinjuku and Tokyo Station. I started giving myself permission to close my eyes for exactly 15 minutes in my parked car before driving home from work. I would park in a quiet corner of the lot, tilt the seat back, set a timer on my phone, and let go of the guilt. The first few times I felt ridiculous. I kept opening my eyes to check if anyone was watching. But the difference was immediate and undeniable. I was a safer driver on the way home. I was a more patient parent when I walked through the door. I was a more coherent human being for the remaining hours of the evening. I was not catching up on lost sleep. I was strategically recharging my brain for the next block of hours. The habit here is not just the nap. It is the permission. The permission to be tired without moral failing. The permission to close your eyes in the middle of the day without being lazy. The permission to treat your body's signals as valid information rather than weaknesses to be overcome. Stop moralizing sleepiness. If you are tired in the middle of the day, find a quiet place, set a 15-minute alarm, and close your eyes. It could be your car, an empty conference room, a bench in a quiet park, even a bathroom stall if that is all you have. You are not being lazy. You are practicing a centuries-old efficiency technique that your body is begging you to adopt. Number 5. They eat until they are 80% full, a concept called hara hachibu. And it is the single most powerful weight management tool you have never used. Hara hachibu is a Confucian teaching that became deeply embedded in the culture of Okinawa, one of the world's blue zones where people routinely live to 100 in remarkable health, with sharp minds, strong bodies, and a fraction of the chronic disease rates we see in the West. The phrase roughly means belly 8 parts full. The instruction is deceptively simple. Stop eating when you feel about 80% satisfied, not when you are stuffed. Not when the plate is clean. Not when the external cue tells you the meal is officially over. Stop when you are no longer hungry, not when you are full. Now, to a Western mind, this sounds like deprivation. We are conditioned to eat until the plate is clean, until the portion is gone, until the external cue tells us we are done. We have outsourced our satiety signals to the restaurant portion size, the package label, the clean plate policy our parents instilled in us. We have completely lost touch with the internal signal of satiety. That quiet voice in the stomach that says, "You have had enough, you can stop now." For many of us, that voice is so faint we cannot hear it at all. The physiological genius of Hara Hachibu is that there is a well-documented lag time between when your stomach is physically full and when your brain receives and processes that signal. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes for the stretch receptors in your stomach to send the message, for the hormones like leptin and cholecystokinin to be released, and for your brain to register the sensation of fullness. So if you eat until you feel 100% full, you have actually overshot by a significant margin, and in 20 minutes you are going to feel bloated, sluggish, heavy, and regretful. You did not need that last third of the burrito. Your body just had not told you yet. By stopping at 80%, you are actually landing right around true fullness once the signal catches up. You are eating exactly what your body needs, not what your habits and your eyes and your childhood programming tell you to eat. Researchers at the Okinawa Centenarian Study documented that elderly Okinawans practicing this principle naturally consumed around 1,200 fewer calories per day than the average Westerner, without counting a single calorie, without restricting any food group, without weighing their food, and without feeling hungry. They simply stopped sooner. They ate the same foods they had always eaten, the rice, the vegetables, the fish, the pork, but they ate less of them, and they ate them more slowly. And they paid attention to the feeling in their stomachs, rather than the amount on their plates. I tried this for 30 days, and it was maddening for the first week. I had no idea what 80% felt like. I had been eating to 100%, or more honestly 120%, for my entire adult life. I did not know the difference between satisfied and stuffed because I had never stopped at satisfied. I started by deliberately leaving a few bites of food on my plate at every meal. Even if I still felt hungry, even if my brain was screaming at me to finish. It felt wrong. It felt wasteful. I had to sit with the discomfort of a plate that was not clean. The discomfort of the voice in my head that sounded exactly like my grandmother, telling me about starving children somewhere far away. By the second week, I started to notice something. That heavy, tired, need a nap after lunch feeling, the one I had accepted as a normal part of digestion, it vanished. I had more energy in the afternoons. My mind felt clearer. I was not fighting a food coma every day at 2 in the afternoon. By the fourth week, my stomach had physically adjusted, and larger portions actually felt uncomfortable. My stomach had shrunk, or more accurately, my sensitivity to fullness had been restored. I could feel the signal now. I knew what 80% felt like, and eating past it felt genuinely unpleasant. I had reset my baseline. The scale showed I had lost 4 pounds without trying, without a single moment of white-knuckling through hunger, without a single restricted food. More importantly, I had rediscovered what actual hunger felt like, that clean, empty, ready-for-food sensation, and what actual satisfaction felt like, that quiet, nourished, no longer hungry sensation. They are two different things, and I had been confusing satisfaction with mild stomach pain for decades. To try this, your only job at your next meal is to eat a bit slower. Pay attention to your stomach, and put the fork down when you feel satisfied but not full. If you are not sure, and you probably will not be at first, aim to leave about 20% of what you would normally eat. Push the plate away, wrap it up for later. You can always eat more in 20 minutes if you are genuinely still hungry. You cannot uneat what you have already swallowed. The food is not going anywhere, it will still be there. But in 20 minutes, you will almost certainly realize you did not need it. Number 4. They design their homes so that clutter is impossible, not just discouraged. The Japanese home is not tidy because Japanese people have some mystical tidying gene, or because they are naturally more disciplined than the rest of the world. It is tidy because the physical environment is designed to make tidiness the path of least resistance. Walk into a traditional Japanese home, and you will notice something immediately. There is almost no furniture, no sprawling sectional sofas that dominate the room, no massive entertainment centers covered in cables and game console and dust, no overflowing bookshelf with books stacked horizontally on top of books, no coffee tables buried under magazines and remote controls and half-empty mugs. Floors are largely empty, covered in tatami mats that smell faintly of straw and demand to be kept clear. Futons are folded and stored in deep closets during the day, freeing up the entire room for other uses. Meals are eaten at low tables that can be moved aside when the meal is done. Closets are deep and designed with precise compartments, shelves, and drawers, each one with a specific purpose. Every object has a designated home, and that home is hidden from view behind a sliding door or a panel. The visual field is calm. The eye can rest. There is nothing competing for your attention. This is not minimalism as an aesthetic choice. Not the stark white Instagram version of minimalism that feels cold and unlivable. It is a psychological health intervention dressed up as interior design. A landmark study from the Princeton Neuroscience Institute found that visual clutter competes for your attention, reducing your brain's ability to focus and process information. Your visual cortex is constantly, subconsciously scanning the environment, cataloging objects, assessing threats, noting things that are out of place. When your environment is cluttered, your brain is doing this work constantly, in the background, draining your cognitive resources before you have even started your day. A cluttered environment literally exhausts your brain. You are not a messy person. You are a person living in an environment that makes focus impossible. The Japanese approach is to treat the home as a sanctuary that actively supports mental clarity, not a storage unit that drains it. The home is not where you keep your stuff. The home is where you restore your mind. Every object that does not serve that purpose, every object that creates visual noise, is an object that is actively working against your peace. I learned this lesson the hard way. I used to live in a typical American apartment, surfaces covered in mail, knickknacks from vacations I barely remembered, kitchen gadgets I had used once, clothes I had not worn in 3 years, and boxes of things I might need someday. Every flat surface was a magnet for debris. My coffee table had layers. My kitchen counters had small colonies of objects that had no real home. I felt constantly low-grade anxious, and I blamed my job, my schedule, my sleep, my genetics, my upbringing. I never once blamed my environment. Then I visited a Japanese friend's apartment in Kyoto. It was tiny, maybe 300 square feet. A single room with a small kitchenette, and a bathroom the size of a phone booth. But it felt twice as large as my place. The walls were bare except for one scroll in the tokonoma alcove, a simple ink painting of a pine branch. The floor was clear. The only objects visible were the ones actively being used, a teacup, a book, a cushion. Everything else was behind sliding doors, in drawers, in closets out of sight. The air felt different in that apartment. It felt easier to breathe. My shoulders dropped the moment I stepped inside. I went home and spent 2 weekends purging. I was ruthless. I donated bags of clothes. I threw away broken gadgets I had been meaning to fix for years. I cleared every surface until you could see the wood, the stone, the empty space. The transformation was not just visual. It was neurological. My morning anxiety dropped noticeably. I could think more clearly. I stopped losing my keys and my phone because there were only 3 places they could possibly be. I stopped feeling that low hum of overwhelm every time I walked into my kitchen. The habit here is not a one-time declutter, not a weekend purge that you undo over the next 6 months. It is a design principle, a way of relating to your space. Look at your home and ask yourself, does this environment make calmness easy, or does it make chaos easy? Does the layout of this room support the life I want to live, or does it support the accumulation of junk? Give every object a hidden home. Keep your horizontal surfaces clear. If something does not have a designated place, either find it a place or get rid of it. Treat visual noise as a form of pollution, because that is exactly what it is. Your brain will thank you every single morning when you wake up and the first thing you see is not a to-do list scattered across your dresser, but a clean, open space that says, "Today is new, and you are ready." Number 3. They walk everywhere as a default mode of transportation, not a special exercise activity. The average Japanese adult walks between 6,000 and 8,000 steps per day without ever setting foot in a gym, without ever putting on workout clothes, without ever carving out a dedicated block of time for exercise, and without ever thinking of it as exercise. It is simply how they move through the world. Cities are designed around train stations, not highways. The daily commute involves walking from home to the station, standing on the train, walking from the destination station to the office or school, and then reversing the process at the end of the day. Errands are run on foot or by bicycle. The grocery store, the post office, the pharmacy, the park, they are all within walking distance. Stairs are everywhere. Elevators and escalators exist but are often secondary, tucked to the side, while wide, inviting staircases occupy the center of the space. The built environment demands movement, and so movement becomes as natural and unthinking as breathing. No one in Tokyo thinks, "I need to get my steps in today." They just walk to the train station, because that is how you get to the train station. In the West, we have engineered movement out of our lives with remarkable precision. We drive from our attached garage to a parking lot directly adjacent to our destination. We take an elevator or even an escalator up one floor. We sit at a desk for 8, 9, 10 hours barely shifting position. We drive home, park in the garage, walk 20 feet to the couch and sit until bed. We then try to compensate for this profound lack of movement by purchasing a gym membership and forcing ourselves onto a treadmill for 45 minutes, an activity we dread, an activity that feels like punishment, an activity that we eventually abandon out of boredom or exhaustion or sheer resentment. This model is a catastrophic failure. The result is a population that is simultaneously sedentary and gym-averse, with all the metabolic consequences that follow. The Japanese model flips this entirely. Incidental movement, the walking and standing and stair climbing embedded into the fabric of daily life, accounts for a massive caloric expenditure that adds up silently over weeks and years. It does not feel like effort. It does not require willpower. It does not require a special outfit or a special time or a special mindset. It is just the friction of living in a world that requires your body to move. Researchers at the University of Tokyo have published data showing that neighborhoods with higher walkability scores have significantly lower rates of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, independent of income or age. It is not about willpower. It is not about motivation. It is about environment. Change the environment, and the behavior changes automatically. I decided to test this by redesigning my own daily movement within the constraints of my car-dependent American suburb. I started parking at the far end of every parking lot, the spot nobody wants, the spot that adds a 2-minute walk to the entrance. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, every single time, even to the 5th floor. even when I was carrying groceries, even when I was tired. I walked to the grocery store for small trips instead of driving, and I discovered that the walk was not a chore. It was a pleasure, a few minutes of fresh air and solitude in a day otherwise spent indoors. I stopped looking for the closest possible parking spot, stopped circling the lot like a predator waiting for a space to open up. At first it felt like a hassle, a series of minor inconveniences that added friction to my day. Within a month it felt normal. Within 3 months, I had lost 5 pounds without changing a single thing about my diet. My legs felt stronger. My energy was more stable throughout the day. I was sleeping better. I was not exercising. I was just living in a way that required my body to do what it was designed to do, which is move frequently at a low intensity throughout the entire day. The human body was not designed to sit for 10 hours and then run for one. It was designed for constant, gentle, all-day movement, and the Japanese-built environment simply reflects that ancient biological reality. The habit here is deceptively simple. Stop optimizing for minimum movement. Stop looking for the closest parking spot, the shortest path, the easiest way. Walk to the things that are within a mile. Take the stairs. Park far away. Do not call it exercise. Call it transportation. Your body will adapt, and you will have added thousands of steps a day without a single minute of willpower spent, without a single drop of sweat on a treadmill, without a single moment of dreading your workout. Number 2. They practice mindful eating as a default, treating food as an experience, not fuel. Watch a Japanese person eat a meal, and you will notice something that feels almost alien to the Western pace of consumption. They eat slowly. They use chopsticks, which naturally limit bite size. You cannot shovel food into your mouth with chopsticks the way you can with a fork or a spoon. Each bite is small, deliberate, contained. Meals are served in multiple small, beautiful dishes, each containing a few perfect bites. A piece of grilled fish on a small rectangular plate. A mound of rice in a ceramic bowl small enough to fit in your palm. Pickled vegetables arranged in a tiny dish like a miniature garden. Miso soup in a lidded lacquer bowl that you hold in both hands. The presentation is meticulous. The colors are balanced, the red of a pickled plum against the white of rice, the green of a shiso leaf against the pink of ginger. The meal is eaten with attention, often in silence or with quiet conversation, and it is savored. There is no eating while driving, no shoveling food over a sink, no inhaling a sandwich while scrolling through emails, no standing in front of the open refrigerator eating leftovers directly from the container. The entire context of the meal is designed to create presence, to bring you into the moment, to make eating an act of attention rather than an act of distraction. This is not just a cultural quirk or an aesthetic preference. It has profound metabolic consequences. When you eat slowly and pay attention to your food, you give your digestive system time to signal satiety. You chew more thoroughly, which begins the digestive process in the mouth through the enzymes in your saliva, reducing the burden on your stomach and intestines. You taste your food, which paradoxically increases satisfaction with smaller portions. When you actually taste what you are eating, when you notice the texture and the flavor and the temperature, your brain registers the experience as satisfying. When you eat mindlessly, your brain barely registers that you ate at all, and you find yourself hungry again an hour later, not because your body needs more calories, but because your brain is still waiting for the meal it never noticed. A study from Kyushu University found that fast eating was independently associated with a significantly higher risk of metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and weight gain, even after controlling for total calorie intake and physical activity. The speed itself was a risk factor. It was not just what people ate, it was how they ate it. Eating quickly, regardless of the food, disrupted the body's ability to process glucose, triggered larger insulin spikes, and led to greater fat storage. The pace of eating was as important as the content of the meal. I remember sitting down to my first formal Japanese breakfast at a ryokan inn in the mountains of Nagano. The morning light was filtering through the paper screens. I was sitting on a cushion at a low table, and a woman in a kimono brought in a tray that took my breath away. There were maybe 12 tiny dishes arranged with the precision of a still life painting. A piece of grilled salmon with the skin perfectly crisped. A small bowl of miso soup with tiny cubes of tofu and wakame seaweed floating like clouds. A soft boiled egg in a tiny cup, pickled vegetables in shades of yellow and purple. A cube of cold, silken tofu topped with a dot of grated ginger and a drizzle of soy sauce. A few slices of persimmon arranged in a fan, a bowl of rice so fresh it glistened. Each element was meant to be eaten separately, savored, appreciated on its own terms. I picked up the bowl of rice and just held it for a moment, feeling the warmth through the ceramic. I took a bite of the salmon and closed my eyes. It took me 30 minutes to finish, and I felt perfectly satisfied, not heavy, not bloated, not desperate for more, just nourished in a way I had never experienced before. I realized I had been eating my entire life, as if food were an annoying task to complete as quickly as possible, an obstacle between me and the next thing on my list. I came home and made one change. I put my fork down between every bite. That was it. I did not change what I ate. I did not count calories. I did not restrict portions. I simply put the fork down on the plate, chewed, swallowed, and only then picked it up again for the next bite. The effect was immediate. Meals took longer, but they were more satisfying. I ate less without trying. I actually tasted my food for the first time in years, noticed the salt, the acid, the sweetness, the textures. I had been eating on autopilot for decades, and this one tiny change turned eating back into an experience. My digestion improved noticeably. The bloating and discomfort I had accepted as normal after meals simply disappeared. To try this, your only task at your next meal is to put down your utensil between each bite. Do not pick it up again until you have fully chewed and swallowed. That is the entire practice. It will feel strange. It will feel slow. It will feel like you are doing something wrong, like you are wasting time. And it will change your digestion and your satisfaction more than any diet plan you have ever tried. You will eat less, enjoy more, and finally give your body the time it needs to tell you it has had enough. And number one, the most important habit, the one that underlies and enables all the others. They maintain a deep, culturally ingrained respect for the body as a non-negotiable foundation. This is the habit that is hardest to explain and easiest to feel. In the West, we treat our bodies like machines that should run indefinitely on poor fuel, minimal maintenance, and constant stress, and we are genuinely surprised and outraged when they break down. We celebrate the person who works through illness, who skips sleep for productivity, who pushes through pain, who ignores every signal their body sends until the signal becomes a scream. We have turned self-neglect into a virtue, and self-care into an indulgence. In Japan, there is a different underlying assumption, one so deeply woven into the culture that it is rarely stated aloud but visible in every gesture. The body is not a tool to be used for other goals. The body is not a vehicle for your ambition, a machine to be optimized and then discarded. The body is the foundation upon which all other goals are built. If the foundation crumbles, nothing else matters. No career achievement, no financial success. No social status can compensate for a body that is broken, exhausted, and in pain. This is not expressed as a rigid health regimen or a set of rules. It is expressed as 1,000 small daily acts of care that are so ordinary they are almost invisible. The way a bento box is arranged with precise nutritional balance and visual beauty. Because you are worth the effort of a beautiful meal. Because feeding yourself is an act of respect, not an inconvenience. The way schoolchildren are taught to clean their own classrooms, instilling a sense of responsibility for one's environment, a sense that the space you inhabit is your responsibility, and caring for it is a form of caring for yourself. The way companies are legally required to measure the waistlines of employees and offer metabolic health guidance, not as a punishment, but as a recognition that a healthy workforce is a productive workforce. The way hot springs or onsen are visited regularly not as a luxury or a special treat, but as a form of maintenance, the same way you change the oil in your car. The way walking, bathing, eating, and resting are all treated with a quiet reverence, not as chores to be optimized and minimized and rushed through, but as the actual substance of a life well lived. The Japanese did not elevate health to a hobby or a subculture. They embedded it into the ordinary rhythm of the day so completely that it became invisible, which is exactly what makes it so powerful. I did not understand this until I spent a month living in a small town in rural Japan, a place called Yufuen in Oita Prefecture. I watched elderly farmers work in the fields until noon, their bodies bent and strong, their hands gnarled but capable. Then they would stop. They would not push through. They would stop for a meal served on real dishes with real chopsticks, eaten sitting down, eaten slowly. They would rest. They would lie down or sit in the shade and close their eyes. Then they would return to the fields. I watched families bathe together in the local onsen, the steam rising into the cool evening air, the conversation quiet and easy. I watched people walk slowly, eat slowly, and treat sleep as a sacred right, not a weakness. I watched a society that had not pathologized the basic needs of the human body. The cumulative effect was not a population of super athletes or fitness influencers. It was a population of people who simply did not develop the chronic, lifestyle-driven diseases that are ravaging the West. They were not fighting their bodies, they were cooperating with them. They were not at war with their own biology. They were in a partnership. The habit here is not one action. It is a shift in identity, a shift so fundamental it will feel uncomfortable at first. You must decide right now that your body is not a vehicle for your ambitions. It is your home. It is the only home you will ever have. Treat it with the same care you would give to a sacred space, a temple, a place that deserves reverence. When you are tired, rest. Not when the work is done, not when you have earned it, but when you are tired. When you are hungry, eat slowly and well. When you are dirty, soak. When you are full, stop. These are not indulgences. They are not rewards. They are the bare minimum of being a human animal. The basic maintenance that every other species on the planet performs without guilt or shame. The Japanese did not crack some secret code. They did not discover a hidden formula that the rest of the world forgot. They simply refused to abandon the ancient, intuitive wisdom that every human culture once possessed, the wisdom that says the body is not the enemy. The body is not a problem to be solved. The body is a gift to be cared for. The body thrives on simplicity, on rhythm, on presence, and on care. These 8 habits are not a program to be completed. They are not a challenge to be conquered. They are a return. A return to moving your body daily without calling it exercise. A return to eating until you are satisfied, not stuffed. A return to bathing as medicine. A return to sleeping when you are tired. A return to living in a home that gives you energy rather than draining it. A return to the way humans were meant to live, before we convinced ourselves that productivity was more important than peace. Pick one, just one. Start tonight with the bath, or start tomorrow morning by walking somewhere you would normally drive, or start at your next meal by putting the fork down between bites. Do not try to change everything at once. That is the Western impulse, the crash diet, the unsustainable overhaul, the dramatic transformation that lasts 3 weeks and then collapses. We know exactly where that leads. The Japanese way is small, steady, daily, and cumulative. One habit, practiced with attention, until it becomes as natural as breathing. Then add another. Within a year, you will not recognize your body, your mind, or your home. You will just be living, the way humans were meant to live all along.